Forbes Books presents Sustainable Leadership and Disruptive Growth with David Radlow. Transformation for a new and better world. Here's David.
I'm back with Nikki Stone, the first American to ever win Olympic gold in the grueling aerial skiing competition. Through sheer grit and determination, Nikki came back from a potentially career-ending injury to reach the very pinnacle of her sport. Since retiring, Nikki has continued to motivate others as a coach, philanthropist, and sought-after motivational speaker. So, Nikki, what are some of the principles that guide you today as a coach and a parent?
Yeah, so my kids always say it's hard sometimes being the daughter or son of an Olympic medalist and one who's a motivational speaker. So it's always challenging for them because I'm constantly teaching them lessons. And the biggest lesson I think I really want to drive home for them is persistence and to always prevail in the face of adversity and risks to make sure that you're trying. You know, I don't think it's always at school getting 100 on the test. It's not always getting that perfect job that you want. It's not having a perfect performance in a presentation you're giving. It's that you are trying to, and eventually you are going to get it right. But it's always making sure that you put in that time because I'll tell you, I probably didn't win many practices. I was trying something new, practices, and I would learn to enhance that and grow it so that it can compete in the contest. So it's not always being perfect. It's not always being the best, but it's always being on. It's always making sure that we are pushing ourselves and that we are not afraid to keep getting back up because there's so many people that are afraid of failing that they won't even try something. And it's so important to make sure we take that risk because if you don't take the risk, it's not going to happen. So you've already failed. So why not give yourself that chance to go out there and achieve it? And if you don't do well, then you don't. When I was at the Olympics, there were reporters that came up to me and said, "What are your goals here at the Olympic Games?" And my first Olympics, I said, "Oh, I'm just happy to be here." But when I went to my second Olympics, I said, "My goal is to win." I might not do that, but that's what I'm here to try to do. And I'm going to push myself to the point where I know that I gave everything. And if I don't do that, then I have to be happy knowing that I'd given my best.
Is that what you're pushing here? Confidence overrides self-doubt in order to grind away and win?
It really is important to have confidence. It's to make sure that we're believing in ourselves, and doubt crops up for anyone. But there were different exercises that I would do to make sure that I had more confidence. And one of those things was a confidence log, in that I would, on the days that I had the most success or the days that I really failed things, I would make sure that I would log all the things that worked for me that day or didn't work for me that day, everything that I did. Like, how many hours did you sleep the night before? What was your confidence level that day? What was your energy level that day? What did you eat for breakfast? And so that I could go back and look at, this day was incredibly successful and I slept for 8 hours and I had eggs for breakfast and I was working this hard at training. And so I could replicate all the things that worked for me. And so it gave me a world of confidence when I got to the Olympics. It was that knowing that I'd done everything I could. As the saying goes, the hay was in the barn. I set everything in place, and it gave me the confidence to know that all I could do is try my best at this point. I'd done everything I could, and all the factors that always worked for me the best were in place already.
And the advice for athletes that are dealing with, and people that are dealing with really tough situations in order trying to overcome them, what's your words of wisdom on that?
Well, we all have challenges. My son is a type 1 diabetic, and I remember when he was diagnosed, I said, everyone has a challenge. Everyone in this world has a challenge, and you could sit there and let it defeat you, and you could feel like, why me? Or you could go out there and say, you know, despite this, I'm still the best at what I do with this issue. So, you know, maybe there's something that you're struggling here. You know, you're really short and you're playing basketball. Well, you could be the best basketball player that's 5 feet tall. And so we always have to make sure that we're looking at our own circumstances and make the best situation we can and not let that drive us and not feel like it defines us, because we all are going to have things that are going to be hard. We're all going to have challenges in life. We all have losses in life, but you have to make sure that you're looking at things, doing, what I called that fire drill to make sure you have everything in place for if something goes wrong. In school, we had fire drills. And if there was an alarm going off, you had to make sure that you knew this was the exit route, or if that's blocked, we go out the other way. And so we need to make sure we do that in our lives. Like, what are you putting in place if something does go wrong? And by making sure I had everything set, I'd have the right attitude to go out there and perform.
So as you look to transform what you've done here in the Olympic world and also in skiing and aerial skiing, and as you try to transform that into leadership, whether it's corporate, profit, nonprofit, etc., what are the takeaways?
I use the turtle still to this day. I help my parents use it to overcome cancer. I use it while I'm going out there and trying to improve my speeches and try to work with clients better. It's always making sure I have that soft inside, that hard shell, and I'm sticking my neck out. And so for that soft inside, I want passion for what I do. We have to make sure that we love everything that we're doing. It may not mean we love every day, but we have to make sure that we have a love of what we're pursuing. And to have that hard shell, we have focus, we have commitment, we have the ability to overcome adversity. And each of those steps are going to take different activities and different drills to make sure that we are going out there and we are, honing in on what we need. We are committing to every step of it, and we are going to bounce back from these adversities. And then sticking our neck out, we have to believe in ourselves and take a risk. And then there's always that teamwork element to make sure that we follow through. And so with businesses, I talk to them about how you use these elements, and it's something I do in my own life as well. I always take the things I learned from sports and I think about how that can translate into the business world. And there's so many parallels. There's so many parallels by how you can be successful in a workspace that I learned from being on the hill.
That makes a lot of sense, and it can be transformed to other athletic situations and entrepreneurs. Am I right?
Yeah.
What do you do? Let's say you have an entrepreneur that's running out of cash flow and he needs to make X amount and he feels like, the world's about to cave in. You go run, you jump on the hill and go skiing. I mean, what do you do in order to reframe yourself to transform to get through these situations?
Yeah, the first step is thinking positively. Like if you think it's going to be negative, that it likely will. So the first is making sure that we have the right attitude, and it means utilizing people around you. It's knowing, as an athlete, we would go to our teammates. We felt down, something was going wrong. You would go to your teammates, you would go to your coaches, you would go to your doctors, you go to your therapist. And so it's making sure that you're utilizing that support system to help you to be able to come back, using the resources around you so that you can go out there and have success. And you start looking at people that are successful around you. Like there's got to be other people that were in that same exact situation. And what did they do in order to bounce back? Just like I did with Joe Frazier. I looked at the fact that he was down and out, and he was in a place where his body was giving out on him, and he was still able to come back. And so that could be the inspiration you need in order to go out there, find that support, and push through any elements that are standing in your way.
While you've been doing this and you've been advising and transitioning from an athlete coach to doing what you do now, what surprised you most about the transition from competitive athletics and coaching to public speaking?
In order to graduate with honors, I had to write a thesis. And I wrote my thesis on elite female athletes' retirement from sports and the ease of the transition. And through this process, I'd learned that you need to have a new focus. It's really important as an athlete that we focus on something else and we find that passion again towards that focus. And even though I did this thesis, I'd done all the research, I knew what I was supposed to do, I still struggled. It was definitely a challenge, and I didn't realize how hard it was to leave the world that I'd known my entire life. And I realized that I had to make sure that I really was finding something that would excite me again. And the greatest thing about speaking is it was similar to aerials, and that I'd be really nervous before I'd get on stage, just like I was nervous before I took my jumps. But I'd step into my element when I was out there. When I got on the hill or when I got on stage, it was making sure you reach that inner core of what makes you perform so well. And to be able to have, the fans at the bottom of the hill excited with the jump you did, or to be able to go after a speech and have someone say they want to change something in their life because of something you said is extremely powerful. And so it really helped that transition to make sure that I could still have that excitement and still have that feeling of accomplishment.
You were kind enough to speak a group of executives at a management conference with us to motivate us. Some were battling serious health issues and other issues. You later shared with me you were not 100% yourself, and you were able to get through it. Could you mind explaining how you get out of situations when you're not 100% yourself and you got to go out and perform or choose to perform?
So I will divulge that I had actually had a miscarriage about an hour before I spoke to you all. At the time, it was definitely emotionally challenging. It was something that was physically challenging. It helped me to be able to think about something else. And I really threw myself into the speech to make sure that I was giving that my all, and to realize that I was doing it for someone else, not just for me, really helped me. And so sometimes if you can find a way that this is contributing to someone else to help them better what they're doing, to know that your success or the things that you are working on are actually going to go out there and help other people, it really helps drive you to be able to go out there and overcome some of these challenges. And, I wasn't sure if I pulled it off exactly. I just knew that I wanted to give my best. I wanted to be able to help you guys. And I wanted to make sure that I delivered the best speech I could under those circumstances.
We had no idea. Everybody thought you were absolutely fabulous.
For many years, I wondered, I don't know if I pulled this off or not. So it's really good to hear.
Yeah, it was. People talked about it for quite a long time. So, we can't thank you enough for that. It's hard to have a follow-up on that, but I was going to go and just follow up on, you've been through difficult situations with the Olympics. You were kind enough to share, some difficult circumstances that, we were involved with. How do we apply that Olympic mindset to our goals and challenges?
With Olympians, the one thing is that, I have a friend who is an Olympian, John Neighbor, is a swimmer. And he always says Olympians are not extraordinary people. They just do the extraordinary. They actually do extraordinary things. They're not extraordinary people. So Olympians aren't afraid to go that extra mile. They're not afraid to stay in the gym for 5 minutes longer. They're not afraid to do 5 minutes more work. And so if you can show up in the morning, give it your all, and go home at the end of the day knowing that you put yourself out there, it's so important. And I remember as a gymnast growing up, we would go through conditioning. And on the days that you just struggled so badly, I remember saying to my coach, like, oh, I don't know if I can get through today. And he told me, you learn the most on the days of the biggest struggles. Those are the days that you gain the most strength. And so I use this throughout my entire life. It's those days that are the most challenging that we actually are accomplishing more than we ever knew. And I still teach my kids this in their sports or academics. When they have bad days, I remind them that, it really is never fun to not achieve what you set out to. But if you know that you grew from this and that it could lead to something bigger in the long run, then it's going to be worth all the agony that it's caused.
That's words of wisdom here. And you have a motivational minute on YouTube. Who is this for, and why did you start it up?
Okay, so it's for everyone. I started it during COVID, and I realized that there were so many people that were feeling down. And for me, I used to read a quote in the morning, and if I'd read a quote, it put me on that right path for the day. It was just getting that quote and feeling, all right, I'm going to use this throughout my day and have it be something that puts me in that positive frame of mind. And so I wanted to be able to share with people this positive frame of mind, this action step that they could take, or the story that would resonate with them. And each day give them 1 minute of inspiration to just be that boost they needed to push themselves in the right direction.
Okay. And what are your top 5?
I don't know if I could say one for sure, but I actually bring in some other Olympic athletes. So people like Michael Ruzzioni, the captain of the 1980 hockey team, Paulo Ono, who is an 8-time medalist in speed skating, Bonnie Blair, who's a medalist in speed skating, Phil Mayer, an Olympic gold medal in skiing. And they all share a little advice as well. And it's so great hearing their inspiration because I hear myself talking all the time. But for me, it's great to be able to have some other people to see that they still use the elements of my turtle effect to have that soft inside the hard shell and sticking their neck out and use that to find their own success. And so I love hearing their stories and try to apply them myself.
Okay, we appreciate that because it's certainly worthwhile, and you have my endorsement. It's outstanding.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
Is there anything else you'd like to share with the audience at how best touch to get a hold of you?
People can go to my website, which is nikkistone.com and NIKKI. And if there's any information on there, there's my contact information. They can see anything about my speeches, my motivational minutes, and to be able to share that wisdom that I've learned from so many around me. But they can reach out to me through the website and it will have my direct contact information.
Okay, that's great. I have to ask you one last question. What charities are you passionate about?
There's 2 charities that mean the most to me. One is for cancer research and the other is for diabetes research. And it's because of my family. My parents are both cancer survivors, and I know they wouldn't be here without people helping support the site. And so I want to be able to give back to it as well. And the JDRF, which is juvenile diabetes, to be able to help them find a cure because I believe it's out there. I believe there's a cure for cancer out there as well. And as long as we plug away at it and I can lend my support and know that I've done everything I can to contribute to it, makes me feel like a better person as well.
She is Olympic gold medalist, best-selling author, professional speaker, and coach, Nikki Stone. Nikki, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. It was a pleasure to be here, and it's so great to see you again.
To connect with David, go to davidradlow.com. David's book set, The Principles of Cartel Disruption and Secret Stories of Leadership, Growth, and Innovation, are available wherever books are sold. This has been Sustainable Leadership and Disruptive Growth with David Radlow, a presentation of Forbes Books.